All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday morning here in Australia. And I'm not sure what time it is, wherever you're going to join me from, but good morning or good night. Okay, I'm just making sure everything is working here. It looks like it is all good on my half. I'll just wait to see if some people get on and can hear me okay. Once again, I'm coming in from Zoom. Just need to shrink that. Okay, I want to share my screen a bit later. So, all right, if you are on here and can hear me, let me know. Make sure you can hear me okay. So definitely let me know it's all good. I'll give it a minute. I haven't set up events for the Tuesday chat. I will get onto that today. So when I set up an event for this, because it's a weekly 9 a.m. my time, weekly Tuesday chat, just right here on my Kazart Facebook page. When it's an event, you can click that you're going and it'll remind you each time when I'm going live. But I haven't had a chance to set that up. I had it finishing for when I went away, and I haven't set them up. So I'm just coming straight into the page, not through an event. So hopefully people can find me okay. And again, let me know if you're on and you can hear me. Okay, that's always the biggest problem from my end is making sure my sound is working. I'm pretty sure I've got it all set up. Hi, Maya. I'm guessing you can hear me, which is great. All right, so this morning I was going to have a chat about my trip to Scotland and opportunities I saw as an artist and things that I could take away from that as well. Oh, awesome. Great. Thanks, Maya. So yeah, Scotland was absolutely amazing and I would encourage anyone to go there. It's absolutely beautiful. But as a creative, from a creative perspective, it really is amazing. So I just thought I'd have a little chat about that and some things that I think I'd like to bring into my own creative practice that I saw sort of over there. Okay, so I'll get on with it because everyone can watch the replay here anyway. So, uh, all right. So I've got lots of notes. So if you see me looking, hold on, let me turn my phone off. It is such a distraction. I've just ordered it's called a Remarkable. It's a notebook, a digital notebook. So there's no distraction. All it does, it's quite expensive for what it does, but it's like a bit of paper, but digital, so you can keep your files and all that. Because if you guys saw my desk, I have sticky notes everywhere. So this is a way to keep everything organized and filed so I can look back on my notes here. I put all my ideas I write down and then it's in a notebook and I've forgotten about it. And then if I do remember, I can't remember where to find where I wrote it. So I thought if I get this notebook, it would help a lot. So, but the best thing about it is there's no distraction. So there's no notifications popping up, when you're on your phone or your iPad, there's all these other things that distract you from actually concentrating. So it's a bit like when I'm doing my art, I get sidetracked all the time with that. I'll be drawing and then, an email will come in or someone will text me or the phone will ring and then I totally get distracted. So my goal at the moment is trying to stop getting distracted and actually focus on work. But anyway, all right. So Scotland, let's talk about that. So like I said, if you are contemplating going overseas and going there, I would highly recommend it. It's amazing. So, but I did find it's a real tourist country, which I was quite surprised at. Um, because I think here in Australia we're not. I know we get tourists, but we're not anywhere near a level of what Scotland is. It is I think without the tourists, it might, I don't know what their industry, they've obviously got a lot of other industries, but it's so heavily tourists, especially in the main cities. Um, and surprisingly, most of the tourists are American. Where we don't get, I don't feel we get a lot of American tourists here. We get a lot of probably Japanese tourists. We get a lot of backpackers, of course, from the UK. We get Scottish, Irish, all of that, a lot of Europeans. But I feel we don't get a lot of Americans, whereas over in Scotland, now I've been through Europe and go to Bali a lot. But this surprised me. It was probably 80% American tourists there. Sometimes it was hard to spot the Scottish person. And the Australians there was a few, but not many. And there was probably a few like Japanese or Chinese tour groups, but again, not a lot. It was, yeah, just a lot of Americans and a lot, just a lot of tourists in general, especially in, like I said, the major towns like Edinburgh, of course, was a standout for tourists there. But in saying that, it really opens up quite a big market for an artist or creative people. Okay, Di, no problem. We'll catch the replay. Awesome. Sorry, I need to stop getting distracted. Okay. So everyone, of course, being a tourist town, everyone's looking to buy a memento from the place they're visiting. So we found after a few days of going to tourist shops, because Edinburgh especially, but everywhere there's tourist shops there, that it became the same thing. So I feel like a lot of the items were like, key rings, T-shirts, all that touristy stuff, a lot of tartan stuff, of course. But I felt like a lot was like the Chinese import, bulk produced the same. Every shop had the same thing. And they sort of, because we got sick of going, we did a lot of shopping. So we got sick of going in like, you'd walk in and go, oh, it's the same stuff, walk out. So we were really craving some work by local artists maybe, or people, or just even just produced in Scotland, So when we did find a shop, occasionally we would come across a shop that was selling different stuff and more locally made stuff, and that they were the shops we wanted to spend our money in. So it was like we were craving it. And we went there with money to spend, as all tourists do. You go to these places, it's a bucket list item. You probably, you always say to yourself you're going to go back, but you're probably not. So you're there to spend money, to enjoy the trip. You don't want to I know in my head, if I'm going somewhere like that, I make sure I save more than I think I'm going to need, because I don't want to be there and go, oh, I wish I could afford to, go on that boat trip, or go, we went on a gondola thing, just do something, and you can't because you don't have enough money. So that's why, like, my mindset is to always have more than enough. So I was looking to buy mementos and little touristy things that I could take back. So it was really good when we did come across a shop that was selling more local artist things, and we bought that, because we was just so sick of seeing the same old stuff, that you just spend a lot more time in these little unique shops. And unfortunately there weren't a lot of them. It was just every now and again. Some of the castles, or there's so many ancient things to look at there, and some of the ones a little bit more out of the way, they would have a little shop attached, and that's where we did find a lot more of the local artistry. So that was really good. So I'm just checking there. All right, I need to stop looking at comments. All right, I will check comments. So if anyone has been to Scotland or wants to add in on this, just definitely pop it in the comments and I will read it. So yeah, so that was the mindset. So I was really, being an artist myself, I was looking at art, of course. I had to be mindful of what I bought, of course, for luggage reasons, but we'll get into that a bit later. But I also noticed we went to if you've ever seen them, the Kelpies. I'm going to share my screen here, actually. The Kelpies in Falkirk, they're these huge horse heads. They're amazing. But I noticed that was a huge tourist attraction, as it should be. And they had an attached tourist shop there. And they had some of like the same old stuff, but they did have a lot of merchandise with a particular artist's work on, which I just want to share my screen so you understand what I'm talking about here. Hold on, I'm hopeless at doing this. You get the page up. There it is over there. Sorry, I should be much better at sharing my screen by now. Share screen, but if you've never seen the Kelpies, you won't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm hoping you guys can just see the Kelpies. All right, there we go, not my notes, but anyway. Okay, so these are the Kelpies, and you can see this is a drawing. And what I was quite surprised at was a lot of the merchandise in, like, this is a big tourist attraction run by probably the Falkirk Council, maybe, I'm not sure who runs it, but it's at the Kelpies. And this image or drawing is used on a lot of their merchandise. So their cups, their notebooks, tea towels, T-shirts, all of that. They had like photos of the Kelpies and that, but this one particular piece of art was used on a lot of their merchandise. And I'm just trying to share. See the background changes? I was looking at the artist's website, and it's a husband and wife, and he does this graphite drawing, absolutely amazing. And then she renders, like, does digital art with the background. Okay, so you can see it's the same graphite drawing, but you digitally enhance the background. And in the tourist shop, they've got all of these different ones on all the different, like, you can buy prints of it. You know, the mugs all have like 3 or 4 different options of backgrounds. Yeah, but it got me wondering, because that's a lucrative thing for the artist to have their artwork featured. Like I said, it was kind of the only artwork. Because at first I started to think, I wonder, I'll stop sharing so I can see. I'll get back to Facebook. At first I thought, I wonder if he'd entered a competition, like whether they had a competition going and they would then use the artwork. But sorry, I don't know whether they just loved it and are working with them so they would obviously be paying that artist a royalty or a commission. So I don't believe it is the artist's mugs and tea towels in there. I think they've just secured the rights to use the images on the products. So there's different ways that can happen. They can just purchase the rights to use that image, and that's it, just a one-off. They pay the artist one time. It's like a contract, and maybe they can use it for a year on whatever products they want. Or it could be they use the image, and for every mug or tea towel sold, the artist gets a percentage, or they could use it, like do a contract for each item. So the artwork is to be used on mugs, and they get a royalty to use it for a certain amount of time on that, or it could be a lifetime thing, and there could be like 3 or 4 every time they want to use it on a different product. They then have to pay the artist again. There's all different ways it can be done. But I thought this is a tourist like place, and we were in there and people were buying. There was like probably, I don't know, we were late in the afternoon, and there was at least 30 or 40 people just in the tourist shop buying stuff. I was one of them. I bought a book on the Kelpies. I didn't buy this artwork. It was beautiful though. But yeah, definitely, Vivian. It is a great way to extend your work if you can get companies to want to work with you as the artist. And this, like I said, it's a beautiful piece of work, and I'd love to know how they got in with that. Obviously, he probably drew it and approached them, or they could be very well known in the UK as artists. I'm not sure, but I was just really surprised. It was just, there was no other artwork really of the Kelpies. It was just this one piece that they were using on all their merchandise. So yeah, very lucrative, and a great thing to get into for sure. So yeah, so that was one art. So I was sort of on the lookout for artists, of course, and what was happening. But yeah, so that was, I don't really know why I didn't actually buy something with that artwork on. Probably because I knew it wasn't something directly from that artist. It was, yeah, more through the whole council or whatever it was. So anyway, I bought some other stuff that I bought directly from artists. So but yeah, I did buy my little pin. I was buying pins everywhere I went. Like I said, you know, we were craving items to remember where we'd been. So they had a book about the Kelpies, which I found quite interesting. I bought that because I wanted to read about it. And also we were buying pins, tea towels, things like that as well. Okay, so where we did also go, which I found a lot of artists, which was great, was and they were like individual artist stalls. So we went to a Highland Games right sort of towards the top of Scotland, above Inverness. We went to a little place, Bockabers it was called. I got to watch how I say that word. But it was at Gordon Castle, the Highland Games, and that was one of our bucket list things as well, to go to a Highland Games. But what I wasn't expecting, there was all these market stalls there. There was about 100 of them, all from, as you would see any market here in Australia, a lot of artist stalls. So you know, we were taste testing the fudge, the whiskey, the you know, the chutneys. They just had all of that, and it was amazing, just like any market. And there was also a lot of artists dispersed throughout, and that's where I saw a lot of felt work, which my daughter does little felt animals and that, but I never really loved it as such, as like, it's not something I'd wanted to learn. And I'd never really thought, you know, I want to buy that felt artwork. It wasn't my thing until I saw this Highland cow. And this was at the, I'm going to try and not get the light on it. This was at the market, and it's quite large, and it's all done in felt. But I just fell in love with the colours and everything. And of course, it was an artist. I'm trying to get it right. Okay, it was an artist she had her own stall. So I was talking to the artist herself who created this. And so, of course, I wanted to buy it. So crazy because of the size of it. I was trying to keep to small things, but she did have smaller ones. But it was the colours and everything on this one that I just loved. So I ended up buying it. But and it's not great to support other artists, of course. It did crack, the glass cracked on my way home because it's quite large to fit in my suitcase. But I managed to squeeze it in, but it didn't have enough packing, I suppose. So it cracked a little bit. That's what the blue tape was. But I'm going to go and get some really good non-reflective glass in there just to really really make it easier to see. But that is what I love supporting the local artists in that way. And she wants me, I've got to, of course, send her a photo to let her know it did arrive back in Australia. All right. Because that's it. When you're an artist and it's your work, it comes from your heart, of course. You really want to make sure wherever it's going, you know it got there safe. It's kind of like your own pet, isn't it? But so I've got to get onto her and let her know it got here okay. Hold on, just could there potentially be? Oh, hold on, Vivian. Could they potentially be on Redbubble? The artist upload and the tourist spot purchases products to sell. I think you can hide the link to products. No, I think no, definitely, Vivian. The Kelpie stuff, because it's like it was like a huge tourist shop that would be council run. I'm imagining. I think they've done a licensing agreement with the artist. Yeah, definitely, 100%. So, all right. I'll have to go back and listen to the beginning. Yes, Lynn, welcome. I'm just sort of talking about my Scotland trip and the artist side of it, I suppose. Okay. So yeah, so probably out of everywhere we went, the Highland Games and all those market stalls, which were unexpected, was the best way I got to see artists, which is the same here. That's where you're going to see a lot of local artists and talk to them. So that was a real highlight, actually. And I got my cow, so which I still am never doing felt as a art medium myself, but I just really appreciate it. And I think why I loved it more than most of the felt paintings I've ever seen, or I don't know if you call them paintings, I'm not sure. I suppose it's not a painting. It's an art piece, maybe. I just felt the felt lent itself to the cow, the long hair and everything. And I just really love the colours she used. So when you see a piece of art that you like, other people might think, why'd you buy that? But I just fell in love with it. I walked away, came back, and I just went, no, I've got to take it. It would have been one of those things, I think, when I got home, if I didn't, I would have always regretted not grabbing it. So, all right. So where we also went and discovered some more artists was the Isle of Lewis and Harris. It's definitely something, if you do go to Scotland, we only got to go there for 2 nights, so we could have easily spent a week over there. It's somewhere I would highly recommend to take the extra time and go across to. That's where we saw the Callanish I think that's how you say it, the standing stones. Absolutely beautiful. If you saw some of our photos that we put up, we were lucky it was a clear enough day that we got a sunset. And their sunsets, like, they call it twilight, goes for hours. So you've got lots of time to take photos. It didn't actually, most of my photos were taken at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I think the sun was just setting at 9:30. It's crazy. And there was quite a few photographers there, actually, because it was unusual to have a sunset. And they were saying, you've all heard of the golden hour that most photographers look for. And over there, like I said to the one, we get maybe a golden 5 minutes over here in Australia, but over there they get like a golden 2 hours. Really, it just goes forever. So they have so much time to get really good photos. So I took heaps of these photos of that. But that was the main reason we went over to the Isle of Lewis. But there was so much to see over there. It was amazing, absolutely amazing, beautiful country. So everywhere you go in Scotland is just beautiful. Um, but yeah, the Isle of Lewis, I would definitely make time for that if you were heading over there. And what I also found over there, there was a lot of artist shops, like art studios. You could do probably an art studio trail, a bit like how you can do here. I only ended up going to one, um, which was called, what was it called? Blue Pig Studio. And we were just driving past and we saw it and did a UE and came back. And it was well worth going in and chatting to the artist there. She was lovely. Jane, I think it was. Let me, Jane, yes, I've got a couple of things here to show you because I wanted to buy something, but I really love what she was doing. So we the first thing we got there and you could hear the donkeys. So we bypassed the studio and went straight into a shed, and now she has two donkeys in there waiting to be fed. So they were gorgeous. So I got lots of photos of those guys as well. But then we finally went back into her studio, and typical artist studio, mess everywhere. But it it was amazing to be part of it. It was a proper working studio. It wasn't all nice and neat or anything like that. She had things going on all over the place. And then she also had a little section was a shop. And I think again, it's such a tourist area, and she was on a road that went to one of the historical sites. So everyone, like there were buses going past, everyone was sort of going straight past. Um, and what an opportunity as an artist. Unfortunately, I live in the middle of nowhere and we get no traffic at all. But if you live somewhere, especially on a main road that might be going to a tourist area, then open a little studio. It was, it was just that to me was one of the best things to go into an artist studio and buy directly from her. Even though I did at the markets, bought directly from an artist. This was her working studio, which you really felt at home in. And she loved chatting as well. So, and what I also loved about her stuff, it was really inspiring, because she was saying how she used to paint a lot more in realism, but she's trying to add more story to her work. And she has been doing, I suppose you could call it more journaling. She's a mixed media printmaker, so she does a lot of printing. So she's sort of progressing into the story of where she lives and like her outings. So which I thought was a really great move as well, especially being in a tourist area, because like this is something I bought off her. Okay, so it is definitely journaling. So probably not quite what my art is. But her little bits, it's just her local area and her little bits of text in there, her words, like the top it says, the colours of the bay are rich and vibrant, magnified by the weak winter sun, which struggles, sorry, I haven't got my glasses on, which struggles out from behind slate grey cloud. A rainbow smudges the earth in a half-hearted arc, which that's very Scottish cold weather. She says here something about it's raining, but then she goes into the beaches alive with birds. So it's obviously things she wrote as she's journaling, taking notes, all of that. And then she's come back to her studio and created the piece of art from probably ideas out of a journal. Maybe some of these were from her journal. But the thing is, it really puts you into that environment. And me looking at this, reading it, takes me back to that island. Like, so this, like I said, it's not really the style of art I do, but it's something I think I would like to to do a bit more with. So I'm thinking when I'm coming up with, this is more for, you know, a lot of my beginner students are just learning tutorials from me, but I'm always encouraging them as they get better and they're confident in their technique to start thinking more about what they love, take photos of what they want to paint. So I'm thinking when I'm actually out taking photos, maybe do a bit of journaling, write down some thoughts, what I'm loving about that, why I'm taking that image, things like that, note it down. And then when I do finish the painting, quite often if you're putting it into an exhibition or a show, they want an artist statement about the piece. And if you've written all that down or done a bit of journaling, then you've got it there, haven't you? So you can easily refer back and go, oh, that's why. Because like sometimes you might not enter that piece for a year and then you forgot why you painted it. But if you've got this journal and notes, you can reflect back, and it can help you pick a name as well, I think, as well. And yeah, and come up with an artist statement. But I also think it would be nice to branch into that as well, especially if you're in that tourist area. Because for me, I bought that because I loved the whole idea and it was inspiring me with my own work. But I also bought, well, let me take it out of here. I bought just a card she printed as well, because now this probably would mean nothing to anyone who hasn't been there. Okay, it's still beautiful, like it's lovely artwork, but when I see it, I bought it because of the clothes on the line. Because I was the passenger in the car and we spent 2 days driving all over the Isle of Lewis, and everywhere, because it's windy and it's sort of cold and, you know, it's quite a harsh environment. But there was just clotheslines exactly like that with everyone's clothes flapping in the breeze because it was so windy. And I quite often thought, God, how are those clothes staying on that line? So it just the clothes, and it really reminds me of that area. So that's why I bought it. So yeah, this is, again, I'm not in a tourist area, but if you are, really, you could really take advantage of tourists that are just craving something to remind them of where they are. So I'm just going to read comments for a sec. Oh, yes, Vivian, very true. This month, I might even do that. I might do a little journal thing of my hibiscus. This month in the Creative Balm, we're working on flowers, but I'm trying to encourage everyone to go and create their own composition from some flowers in their garden or that they've taken photos of. But yeah, what a brilliant idea to maybe do a bit of journaling to go with that image that we take. Yeah, very good. Sells pages out of a sketchbook. She is the stitch one. Victoria Schiotti sells pages out of a sketchbook. Wow, that's cool. I would want to sell prints of my pages out of my sketchbook. I don't think I'd want to sell the original pages, or maybe you could sell the original pages out of your sketchbook. But make sure you've got a good scan or copy yourself, so you don't so you have it, because your sketchbook and your journal is sort of to reflect on, isn't it? So yeah, so that was another artist that we went to, and like I said, I'm gonna hopefully try and bring something into my work with that to try and dive deeper into it, and it's all about the story. With selling your work, people want the story behind it. So you could, even if you had an exhibition, so say you had a big, you know, I do wildlife, so maybe a dingo. When I do my Fraser Island exhibition, maybe my painting of the dingo, but then at the side I could have part of a sketchbook or journal, or it was something I was thinking about, showing how I came up with the ideas for the painting. Because I think people in an exhibition, especially if people are walking around, they want to know more about the painting than just go, wow, that's a beautiful painting. And it might touch their heart and they just want to buy it, a bit like I did with the cat, the Highland cow. But people like to be invested in a story, and that then will make them buy the art. So I think it's a pretty good way. Some galleries maybe won't let you. Well, I know an art competition you can't do that. Usually it's just a little bit of a statement, a couple of words, like a couple of sentences. But if you're doing your own exhibition or you've hired a wall, then you can definitely really put more into it. And I think it would really help to sell the work too. Um, all right, let me just read my notes. Um, okay, so yeah, so I was thinking then about if you lived in a tourist area, but Scotland is like next level tourists. I don't even know if we have anywhere here in Australia that is that touristy. And this was all of Scotland, even their small villages were quite touristy. Um, but maybe I don't like, I live kind of close enough to Harvey Bay, Fraser Island. That's probably the biggest tourist area near me. We got the Sunshine Coast, I suppose, the Gold Coast, things like that. But they're not even on the same level as Scotland. Um, like in Edinburgh, 80% of the people would be tourists in there, and only 20% would be the workers manning the tourist shops. But maybe the Great Barrier Reef, I was thinking here, that would be very touristy. So if you sort of had somewhere like that, and that's where I think you could really tap into this. I mean, you could do it in other places that, you know, Lynn, I live on a loop road off a loop road on a road to nowhere, no Australia. That sounds like my place, Lynn. Um, I mean, I know we do have, like, a lot of Australians travel Australia. We have but backpackers don't want to buy anything because they're traveling light. Um, but yeah, so I was, you know, it would be, if I moved to Scotland, I would open an art studio straight away. Art studio, have an attached shop and a place to hold workshops. But you know, you'd want to be on a road going somewhere, and make sure you got a big car park so the buses can pull over. But yeah, just such an opportunity over there as an artist, I think. Because yeah, there's just everyone's wanting to buy stuff. So but yeah, if you lived up near a real tourist area like the Barrier Reef or somewhere, then I would really look into starting to create um landscapes or animals, something to do with your area, definitely. Something that you could imagine, like I know, say Harvey Bay, it's not a huge tourist area, but there is tourists get there to see the whales, of course. So of course, if you were gonna start creating Harvey Bay inspired items, then you have to include whales. And just think of like the landscape, especially this, I don't know, I haven't really put much thought into it here in my area, but I'm sure there are landmarks and types of things. Like here was just the clothes on the line was so typical of this area. You know, Maryborough, the old houses, the old Queenslanders, definitely. I would sit and think about your area and what is unique to it, and then start to maybe create some work. Um, you know, that a bit like this sort of journaling. Oh, I mean, it can be anything, I suppose, any style or type, but it's got to just really be unique to that area. And then you could probably approach your council or your local art gallery. I know the big Harvey Bay Gallery is they put out a call a while ago for merchandise. So if you created tea towels, maybe that I've seen people doing maps of of the area, just sort of showing different, unique parts of it, stuff like that. Then you could then approach different places with your artwork to try and sell it. All right, Vivian, I have an office in town, turn it into a studio. This way underdeveloped in my town. Warrumbungle tourism this way. I think oh, that's good, Vivian. I'm glad I'm sparking ideas. But yes, Vivian's in Coonabarabran Way, which for Australian tourists that are traveling Australia, definitely you would get quite a lot of tourism that way. And yeah, again, just think of things that are unique to that area for sure. And yeah, if you could turn a little, yeah. See, for me to turn my studio into an open studio, I wouldn't get anyone at it. So if your house isn't in a good area, then it's no point. But yeah, if you could get an office or rent a space in the town, then, and it's not too expensive to start with, you could maybe even work with a couple of other artists and try and get something set up and just see how it goes. But yeah, it just really made me think a lot about how the artists over there are creating income, and just if you're in the right spot, you're laughing. Okay, so I'm just reading my notes again. So yeah, so I was like I said, because we were flying, apart from my cow, I was buying pins from everywhere. And then also, so they weren't really from individual artists, they were just a pin that they probably get made in bulk in China, I don't know. But it had where we were going. So, and they were nice and light and easy for me to sort of bring home. But I was buying a lot of gifts for every family member I have, just because I just loved everything. I wanted to buy everything. So I was buying a lot of tea towels. So tea towels were great because they don't weigh much and they can fold up. I did buy a couple of t-shirts as well. But yeah, they sort of, you can pack them in your suitcase pretty easy. And I bought some probably a little bit more mass-produced tea towels, but I got some that were done by local artists. So again, I was trying to buy ones that were made in Scotland and they were designed by locals. So, and I got some beautiful, beautiful tea towels. So just think of, if you wanted to try and get into the tourism side with some of your art, like you don't have to change your whole style of art, but this could be a little side project. Think of things that are easy for travelers. I've had when I've had a market stall in town, we do get a lot of caravan Australian travelers around this area. But they don't have room on a caravan wall to hang a painting. So they're looking at tea towels, maybe small prints, stickers, maybe things like that. So you've got to think they want something that's not too expensive, I suppose, something that is easy to put in a suitcase or easy to be in a caravan. Especially with you, Vivian, caravanners for sure would be around your area. So think about that. Because when you're traveling in a van, a lot of them are turning to stickers, like peel off and on stickers. But I would think even if it was a small painting in a frame, I would, even though I hate perspex in frames, I would even go that path, have just a cheaper frame with the perspex, because there's no risk of it smashing if it falls off their wall. A lot of people, when you're in a caravan, you need everything secure, so you're not really hanging paintings, are you? So think about that. Yeah, can pack easy, not ridiculously expensive, and yeah, is suited for a caravan. Okay, so they were just things that I know I was looking for. There was, of course, bigger things, but they weren't. Oh, maybe cushion covers in a caravan, maybe. Actually, cushion covers could be a good one because my daughter, they're just heading off to travel Australia. A lot of people on the travel pages have said they put their jumpers in their cushion covers. So it looks like a beautiful, like just a cushion on their bed or on their lounge in their vans, but it serves a dual purpose. It's actually where they're storing their winter gear. So I thought that's a great idea. So yeah, cushion covers is one that would probably be popular. Anyway, I think you just need to brainstorm. Maybe we'll brainstorm in the next art chat, Vivian, and come up with ideas in the membership for what would be good things that tourists and travelers would be looking for. Okay. All right. One of the other things that stood out to me when we were in Edinburgh, and we were visiting the places that J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, came up with ideas, you can really get a sense of how areas of the city would have inspired her to write about sort of that whole wizarding world. Um, Especially, I feel like, the school, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's been years since I watched Harry Potter, but the whole school, Diagon Alley, all of that. When you're just walking around Edinburgh, you kind of feel like you are in that world a little bit because of just how old it is, and there are like these deep dark alleys and things, and the castles and all, just the abbeys, the beautiful buildings. And then we went to that Greyfriars Kirkyard, which kirkyards are graveyards. Donna Arkle came with us, and you could just sit in there. It is just beautiful. And that's where J.K. Rowling got the names for her characters in Harry Potter. And then the coffee shop that she wrote did a lot of her writing overlooks the graveyard there. And it's just a beautiful place. And when you're in there, it's so peaceful. It's just a different feeling than I think some of the graveyards here. I could have just you could just sit and sketch or read or just be creative for hours. It was just beautiful being in there. And you could really understand. I said to Amanda, my girlfriend, like, I can totally see how she came up with this whole wizarding world here. It's just really magical, the whole place. And just how she was inspired by everything there. And yeah, it was just a beautiful part. Edinburgh is an amazing city. And yeah, it was just, I don't know, I just really could understand the creative people. I mean, I'm sure it's the same everywhere you travel, but I could really feel a lot of creativity in this place. And unfortunately, I didn't get to do any sketching. I think an art retreat in Scotland would be cool. But we don't need to win the lotto first. But I think if I go back, I'd love to go back. Going with another artist would be good. But I look, my girlfriend would have allowed time for me to sit and sketch. But because it was our first time there, we wanted to see as much as we could, and we only had 2 weeks. But I think if I went back, I'd want to try and make a bit more time to just sit in places like that graveyard, and do some sketching, and anywhere like over on the Isle of Lewis, like the Standing Stones, even just to sit. Like, I was taking lots and lots of photos, but you all know it's different to sit and try and sketch and get colors down and stuff like that. So I think if I did it again, I would try and allow a bit more time. But it's definitely a place that you can feel the creativity there. And yeah, I would give it a 5 out of 5. Everyone's friendly there. They're all really welcoming. And I think it's really ideal for creative people for sure. So, um, Oh, Hogwarts, that's it. That's the name. Vivian. Totally forgot the school. Yes, definitely. I really loved Edinburgh. Oh, you've been to Edinburgh, Helene. Yeah, it's just beautiful. But everywhere we went in Scotland was amazing. We started in Edinburgh, and just so much to see. But yeah, I mean, we only saw a little tiny. We saw like two streets, and that took us like 2 or 3 days. But yeah, just the history there. It's just very inspiring everywhere we go. And we went, and just the landscape changes here in Australia. Like I've said, you'll drive for hours and see the same kind of landscape. Whereas over there, it really does change. You know, every half an hour it looks different. And it's a great place to do a driving holiday like we did, because I think 3.5 hours was our longest drive, and that took us like from Edinburgh right up the top, to sort of Inverness and that. So, and I drive that to Brisbane all the time. So I think as Australians, we're used to driving long distance. So Scotland's an ideal place to actually do a self-drive. And it was easy driving too. Same side of the road, they have roundabouts, drive exactly the same as us. So yeah, definitely I would recommend doing a self-drive tour rather than being on a bus. So anyway, all right, guys, it has nearly been an hour I've been rambling on, but I hope I've given you some ideas. I hope I've encouraged you to go to Scotland if you're thinking about it. But yes, for those in my membership, we might chat a bit more about trying to tap into tourism if you live in a tourist area at our next art chat. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. And if you're watching the replay of this, just pop comments in as well if you want, and ask questions, or let us know if you've been to Scotland as well and if you loved it as much as I did. So, all right, guys, I will talk to you all very soon. Bye.